Welcome. We are live with newly Bitblits, alert breaking recently. So, uh, various things going on. So, first of all, I want to go through some Democracy Now! Headlines. Something I've wanted to do, which opens them for us. I'll just read them, but I might interject things, or I wonder if I should just share that screen, maybe. It's something we can discuss, right? Maybe these are topics for Sunday. All right, first one. Trump continues to refuse to acknowledge Obama born in the U.S. Now, he did acknowledge that he was born in the U.S. in some sense today, but Donald Trump has continued to refuse to acknowledge that President Obama was born in the United States. In an interview with the Washington Post on Wednesday, Trump refused to answer the reporter's question about whether he accepts Obama was born in Hawaii, instead saying, "I'll answer that question at the right time. I just don't want to answer it yet." So then today he made a big deal about answering it. So this is from today's program, and they missed him. In contrast, Trump's vice presidential running mate, Indiana Governor Mike Pence, acknowledges President Obama was born in Hawaii. Trump's campaign manager, Kellyanne Conway, has also contradicted Trump, claiming he now accepts Obama was born in the U.S. Trump has long been a leader of the so-called birther movement, which former Secretary of State Colin Powell has slammed in recently leaked emails as being a racist movement. Is it a racist movement? It definitely feeds off a racist energy. Donald Trump Jr. invokes Holocaust to allege media bias and kisses dad. Meanwhile, Donald Trump's son, Donald Trump Jr., has also sparked controversy by invoking the Holocaust while alleging media bias against his father while speaking at a Philadelphia radio station. He said, "The media has built her up. They've let her slide on every, indiscrepancy, every lie, on every DNC game trying to get Bernie Sanders out of the thing. I mean, if Republicans were doing that, they'd be warming up the gas chamber right now. Is he an idiot? Is he simply incompetent? Or is he a malevolent race baiter? Hard to know. Probably idiot." Donald Trump Jr., which is no forgiveness. To do a crime and be an idiot is actually a worse crime than do the crime and knowingly being an asshole. In my view, though, the traditional one is different. Donald Trump Jr. later told NBC his comments were a reference to capital punishment in the U.S., not the Holocaust. Donald Trump himself also faced accusations of anti-Semitism in July after he defended his decision to tweet an anti-Semitic image which showed Hillary Clinton a pile of $100 bills and a 6-pointed Star of David along with the words, "most corrupt candidate ever." The image originally appeared on a white supremacist message board. All right, moving on. Oh, and this goes to item 1 about Clinton's house, too. Hillary Clinton returns to campaign trail with rally in North Carolina. Hillary Clinton returned to the campaign trail Thursday with a rally in Greensboro, North Carolina, where she addressed her recent... Oh, wait a second. This is from fucking yesterday. Or no. So it's today. It is the 70th. No, so this is from today, but they're talking about the yesterday, and actually it's 2:30 in the morning, so it's 7. I'll get to why I'm up late. I mean, obviously, I stay up late a lot, but there's a reason. Okay. She addressed her recent pneumonia. Some people are saying suspicious, and I thought was a unsubstantiated paranoid conspiracy idea. Now, I don't know. Saying, "I'm not great at taking it easy." Clinton spoke later in the day at the Congressional Hispanic Caucus in Washington, D.C., which, by the way, that was some news. The Black Caucus going off on Trump today. Okay, the latest poll, oh dear, latest polls show Clinton and Trump tied in a 4-way race. Clinton's return to the campaign trail comes as the latest New York Times CBS News poll shows Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump in a tight race. You could go to, what's that, Real Clear Politics. They've got a good summary of all the polls. You could keep up, and it is scary. It is tightening. And Trump is moving to the liberal populism issues, which I thought he would do sooner, and then I started to get confident he wouldn't. And anyway, I'll get into item one with Clinton's health about why she might not be campaigning much. And I don't want to jump on that bandwagon at all. I want Hillary or whoever is left if she passes away to win, not Trump. I'm purely anti-Trump. It's not something, I don't believe in fear-based this and blah, 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 blah. As you get older, maybe is the problem, but also it's Trump we're talking about, and I've hated him for so long that it's legitimate to have a big enough hate of him to tolerate or even appreciate what we get in Hillary Clinton, who is no Bush at least, and certainly no Trump. Bush, I'd vote for Bush. I'd be telling you vote for Bush right now. I lost my train of thought, but anyway, Clinton leading Trump by 2 points nationally in a two-way race. In a four-way race, Trump and Clinton are tied, each with 42%. While Libertarian Party nominee Gary Johnson has 8% of the vote and Green Party nominee Jill Stein has 4% of the vote. And politics is complicated, children. Let me tell you, some Republican was saying Gary Johnson should drop out and he could be a hero. It's not at all clear that Gary Johnson vote would go to Trump. It really isn't. Okay. A lot of Republicans now are more like Democrats than they are like Trump, especially if we're talking about Hillary Clinton pro-business Democrats. Ohio, white police officer kills 13-year-old black child with BB gun. I will say it was a very realistic-looking BB gun. Saw a picture of it. So in Columbus, Ohio, more than 100 people gathered for a vigil to mourn the death of 13-year-old African-American Tyree King, who was shot and killed Thursday night by a white police officer after the officer allegedly mistook the child's BB gun for a real gun. King was an 8th grader who played football and was in the Young Scholars program at his school. Police say he was shot after officers chased him down as they were responding to a 911 call of a man who says he was robbed of $10. Police claim King pulled the BB gun from his waistband before he was shot. This is a witness to the shooting. Witness. We looked out the window to see what was going on, saw an officer running after somebody this way down the left, and heard gunshots about 5-10 seconds afterward. Tyree King is the second youngest person killed by police this year. His death recalls the police killing of 12-year-old Tamir Rice, who was gunned down by 2 officers in November of 2014 while he was playing with the toy pellet gun in Cleveland, Ohio. At Thursday night's vigil, people mourned the ongoing killing of African American by police. Amber Evans. That's what people are sick and tired of. They're sick and tired of justice being reserved only for the few, not for the communities of color. They're sick and tired of not feeling safe. Tyree King is at least the 761st person killed by police in the United States this year, according to an ongoing Guardian investigation. Now, here's the thing. If we want to say that kids can't have the pellet guns, that's too dangerous, but they can have regular guns. Now, I believe they can have regular guns, which means they can have pellet guns. Cops have to be a little bit more brave. I'm sorry, that's who we need in that position. That's why in a position where you don't, where you can show up and get the training from the job and whatnot, we might expect a certain kind of character and a certain kind of calm, a certain kind of strength, a certain kind of body build or mental build. Right? It's a hard job. It's supposed to be a hard job because it's hard not to kill these kids. Now, I would have to say that let's see, how do I want to put this? I do think it's dangerous for kids, and if they have toy guns that look real, that's a serious thing to teach them about and whatnot, and especially treat it like a real gun. Treat it like it was a real gun when you're showing it to the police. If you're mature enough to play with this gun, this realistic pretend gun, then that's something you also need to be able to do. On the other hand, when I was a kid, I would run from cops. You don't want to get in trouble. You just want to get away from that if you're not a part of the thing. So was he? That's important. Did he have the $10? That's important, et cetera, et cetera. Having a gun that's legal, but that causes confusion to the cops is still legal. Guess what? It's a problem for the cops. So we'll see how this turns out. More guilty while being black news. Serial cigarette salesman, I believe. Eric Gardner received, the guy who killed him received a 20% pay hike in this headline. So this comes as the family of Eric Gardner, who was killed by a fatal police chokehold in Staten Island in 2014, has voiced outrage over new reports that the NYPD officer who killed Gardner has received a 20% pay hike over the last 2 years. NYPD officer Daniel Pantaleo reportedly earned nearly $120,000 last year. That's a good amount of money. So how's that work out? It's because it's a dangerous job, I guess. Now, he's been on desk duty since he placed Eric Garner in the fatal police chokehold, but he does not face criminal charges. Thursday would have been Eric Gardner's 46th birthday. A couple years. Now, this is interesting. Well, they're all interesting. Sandra Bland had moved down south because she got a job. She wouldn't put out her cigarette. She pissed off the cop, who deserves more respect than that, he thinks, or else you can see what it's like for the real criminals. Then she supposedly committed suicide, which I don't believe for a second. I think Derived Energy is more likely to have committed a suicide in a Jakarta prison, and he didn't either, in my guest opinion. Sandra Bland family settles for $1.9 million. Meanwhile, the family of Sandra Bland has received $1.9 million in a wrongful death settlement with the Texas Department of Public Safety and the Waller County Jail. I can call Texas the South, right? I never know this because the Southwest starts to be like, well, we're not the South. No, you are. Arizona, last place to take a holiday if it's Martin Luther King Day. 28-year-old African-American Sandra Bland died in a Texas jail cell in 2015, 3 days after she was arrested for allegedly failing to signal a lane change. Authorities have claimed Sandra Bland committed suicide while in jail by hanging herself with the garbage bag, but her family has rejected the claim, and if you look into it, it doesn't seem very likely. U.S. to pay £1 million to a family of Italian aid worker killed in drone strike. Sorry, €1 million. The U.S. Embassy in Rome has confirmed the Obama administration has agreed to pay the family of an Italian aid worker killed in the CIA drone strike in Pakistan last year €1 million, which is over $1 million. President Obama has acknowledged and apologized for the operation, which killed Giovanni Loporto and a U.S. government contractor named Warren Weinstein. Despite hundreds of hours of surveillance, Obama said the United States had not known that the hostages were present. From the sky, they're watching. It's much probably safer in these little terrorist dens and stuff when they're only watching from the sky. So how long is this taking? Shit. Okay. Mexico, thousands call for President Peña Nieto's resignation. In Mexico, thousands of people marched in downtown Mexico City, calling for the resignation of Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto on the eve of Mexico's Independence Day over the violence and corruption across the country. Alicia Mercado says, "It is time to say, long live Mexico, but also emphasize a Mexico for us. And it's time to say that Peña has to go. Peña out. That is why I'm here, because I'm fed up with our bad government. Mexico smells like death because of its territory is a common grave full of assassinated and disappeared people and the journalists who were killed for saying the truth." The protest comes as Peña Nieto also continues to face backlash after meeting with Donald Trump in Mexico City last month, only hours before Trump went on to give a fiery speech in Phoenix in which he promised to deport 2 million people in his first hour in office if elected. Last week, Mexico's finance minister who orchestrated Trump's visit resigned. We're coming to my items 1 through 4. This is item 0 because I'd like to do this. I think the Democracy Now! Has very good headlines and things that are, a year later will be like, there's a war over this thing they talked about 2 years ago. We could do the prevention thing. But anyway, Trump was talking about, I'll have 25. I swear to God, I didn't double check this now, but he was saying 25% economic growth and 500 million jobs, or it wasn't 500 million, but it was tens of millions. It's like, he just says whatever. Anyway, Philippines, 3,000 plus killed in Duterte's so-called war on drugs. In the Philippines, very interesting thing because, you know, we fucked the Philippines over. We had concentration camps there, and they were revolting against the Spanish, made a deal with us, right? And was that all the way back in the 1800s, turn the century, 18 to 1900s? They were kicking the Spanish out, had a, you know, revolution or whatever, a insurgency for a couple of years, I think it was. You know, historians, feel free to chime in. I only get things wrong on purpose sometimes so that you could clarify by contrast. But the basics of this is right. So we made a deal with them that history doesn't record, and Spanish, let the Spanish go, and blah, blah, blah. We went in there. They thought we were a big democracy, going to help them out. Instead, we Nazied them. We put concentration camps, waterboarded. The death ratio in the war was crazy, the dead to wounded ratio, because we went through shooting all the wounded guys. You could tell by just look it up. So when they wake up and figure that out, because they might stop taking care of our elderly people. This guy's a motherfucking crazy guy. Not him. He's not the crazy guy. This guy. Crazy. This is what it'll be like if we get Trump, man. In the Philippines, the death toll of President Rodrigo Duterte's so-called war on drugs continues to rise. More than 3,000 people have been killed by police and vigilantes since Duarte took office in late June. In late June. I mean, what did Pinochet do? 10,000 a year? June, July, August, September, 4 months. That's going to be 10,000 people in 12 months. On Thursday, a man testified to the Philippine Senate that he was paid by Duarte to carry out a string of extrajudicial killings, Trump, including one in which he fed a body to a crocodile while Duterte was serving as the mayor of Davao. This is Edgar Matabo speaking. From my start, from 1988 to 2013, I've gunned down over 50 people when we were told to kill. I cannot remember their names, but I still remember being a hitman and what happened. Brazil, former President Lula slams his corruption charges. In Brazil, former President Luiz Ignacio Lula da Silva has been charged of being the maximum commander of a corruption scheme in the state-run oil company Petrobras. Lula was charged along with his wife and 6 others. He slammed the charges on Thursday, saying they were politically motivated. This comes after his successor, ousted President Dilma Rousseff, was impeached by the Brazilian Senate in a move she has denounced as a coup. 60%, and a lot of liberal people think of that as a coup. I don't know what to make of it. 60% of Brazilian lawmakers, progressives, I should say, more than liberal. 60% of Brazilian lawmakers are currently under criminal investigation or have been convicted of crimes ranging from corruption to election fraud. Frogs, ribbit. Not that surprising, really, when Brazil had such great economy. Of course, now it's not so good, and even in a corruption picture, Brazil managed to have, you know, big titties back there. Okay. Bayer takes over Monsanto, creating the largest seed supplier in world. In financial news, German pharmaceutical firm Bayer has bought out agribusiness giant Monsanto in a record $66 billion takeover, creating the largest supplier of seeds and agricultural chemicals in the world. And they said, I believe, that they're going to change the name of Monsanto into pig lipstick. Sit-in at Interior Department demands Obama end oil leases on federal land. In Washington, D.C., several people are arrested in sit-in headquarters of the Department of the Interior, demanding Obama stop leasing federal land for oil and gas drilling. The sit-in, I don't necessarily support this, but I do think they should actually charge a fair rate when they do lease it. The sit-in came after activists delivered a petition signed by more than 1 million people to do so. And then this guy, which I've seen several stories on this. So he wakes from a coma in Uruguay. I feel really very, very worse. All my body hurt me and my kidney headache, my stomach, my right side really bad, many things, but I feel all my body hurt me. And Amy Goodman says, there's a battle in court in the United States to release the videotape of your force feeding in Guantanamo. Can you describe what force feeding was like for you? And he describes it. Now, here's the thing. I'm just going to summarize this. This is of a concern. The force feeding is a kind of torture. Being in Gitmo is a kind of torture. And frankly, I think this guy ought to be sent home to Turkey to visit his daughter's husband. She just got married. He already missed the wedding. I was going to say to visit the wedding. Okay, so this has taken a long time, but that's good. We need to go through that. What the fuck? What the hell? I watch these women. Oh, it's crazy. Okay. Now here's where I was getting into my part. So Clinton's health. And I thought that was a conspiracy, the stuff, and to a certain degree it is. But with Colin Powell's emails coming out and stuff, it has turned out that here, we'll go back up here. What's a good one? Let's see that. So she has had some health problems. It's not a big deal. But if she is actually in any sort, like, here's what bugs me. She didn't campaign much in August. She's having trouble campaigning. Now, some people were saying, oh, because she's too busy just getting big money, you know, donors, private fundraising. Nope. It looks like it's health. Now, here's the thing. She acts like the presumptive nominee, but here's the thing. Let's say you would give the Clintons the benefit of the doubt. Like, let's say they want, you know, nationalized public health care. Maybe they want single payer or whatever. Give them the benefit of the doubt that that's just not pandering because they've learned how to, you know, fool the marks. I still think, even if they really care about that, if somebody else could make more progress, could accomplish that by being president, doesn't matter. They would rather one of them be president. They would rather their personal ambition to be president overshadows the things that they would actually want to accomplish. Like, if every single thing that she wanted to accomplish, if she could look at another candidate and go, wow, every single one of those things, they will accomplish more, for whatever reason. They'd still personally want to be president. On the other hand, there's something about that in those kinds of executive offices. There's a lot of things you could do to help your community besides be mayor. And people that go from mayor to president, well, we need them to come from somewhere. So still, though, if she's any kind of serious sick, you know, before she gets elected, not just being 70, I don't mind that she might die at any minute. Any of us might. But if she has something but she's going to run and she can't even campaign full time, well, that costs you 5 or 6 points not being able to campaign. That's just how it is. People haven't heard of you. They haven't seen you in your town. There was no big splash for them. Campaigning, that's the hard work of campaigning, flying around, getting your voice hoarse and stuff. If you can't do it, you know it's going to cost you 5 or 6%, and then you run on the other guy's unelectable. I'm the only electable one. That pisses me off. And yes, I am entirely anti-Trump. I'd vote for fucking Bush before Trump. I had a comment from Armando 7654 about, oh, you can't care about the whole world. I dared him to tell me, where does the local world stop exactly? Is it at the edge of my brain, or can I include my body? Can I include my house and family and town? And where does it stop? Of course, you won't be able to draw a sharp line. I wanted to talk about the Dakota Access Pipeline. Neil Young has made a song about that. I have not watched it yet, but I am going to. I meant to before I started this up. I am not entirely against pipelines. I'm not entirely against oil infrastructure building while we still have an oil infrastructure, but I'm pretty against it because we need to try harder at other kinds of infrastructural energy projects. But I'm not a big fan of eminent domain. So when you put these together, no, I'm sorry, I don't think you should be able to go across the reservation or their river if they don't want you to. End of story. And it bugs me people like Mr. Cropper support eminent domain when it's used in a case like this. It's annoying. And I'll bet I could find a private rancher or two that also had it used for this reason that didn't want it. And then where would Mr. Cropper be? Now, finally, for my last thing, my personal comments about my IRL. Okay, I just finished a programming test a while ago. It would be about an hour ago now. In the kind of work, so I'm a senior software engineer and also applied for, some management jobs. And one of them, they liked me, but I didn't get because I've managed teams as a lead programmer, like teams of 8 people. And this one was a team of 30 people. I was actually happy they interviewed me all the way through to the end. They were very positive. I thought I could get another job there. But anyway, different job, had a lot of, I'm going through a lot of interviews. So the baseline of the kind of work I do, it takes like a month to get a job, assuming somebody's interested. So like from the time you first talk to the HR person screening you, and then you go to another one, and then another one, you have like 3 interviews like that, and then they want to give you a test. Now, the thing about tests is it's just part of programming industry has a lot of fads. I mean, 20 years ago, the fad was to ask questions like, if there was how would you calculate how many manhole covers are there in downtown Seattle? And of course, you don't have really the basic information to do. Then the point is, well, I'd have to find out this. It's like, what if you couldn't find out? Well, I'd make an estimate based on this and that. That was kind of Microsoft was big on that. The big popular companies that are billion-dollar companies drive what everybody else wants to copy. Right now, it's the Google approach. Now, the Google approach is kind of a pair programming where some guy comes in and gives you a programming problem and he watches you try to solve it. And then the way to solve that, to pass that test, is you're not supposed to get it right just at first. You're supposed to do the brute force kind of, well, I guess I do something like this. And then they want to go, oh, what about that? And you go, oh, well, I use a binary tree. And you're supposed to develop like that. It works kind of well at Google. But I think there's issues with it, but it's a pretty good screening process, especially since Google's like, well, if you fail, just try again. We don't care. It's biased towards rejecting you. You try again. It's fine. But in the hands of a whole industry that doesn't know how to do it, it's ridiculous. Like one guy, and I'll just say, because why not? It was at Mozilla Foundation. He asked me how to do this thing, and I did it. And he said, do it in a one-liner. And it's like, what? Ask me. That's your this is the guy who's going to find out about programming. It's like, what really determines if you can do good senior level programming is concepts. It's not whether you have memorized or use a particular idiom in a particular language, of which there are hundreds, if not infinite, in principle. Now, I just finished a programming test where it's a good kind, I think. I don't mind doing the programming tests. There's ways to make them practical or just problems like one place. Well, that's another issue. But anyway, one place, it's basically like they used Django. So it was a little Django thing. You set it up and then you fix a little artificial thing that was like a problem taken from something they dealt with. That was okay. This one, they send you 6. I don't know how much I should say, but I don't think it's a problem. They send you 6. You get to choose 3. You have 2 days to do them. Takes about a day. So I used one day to do them and another day to just kind of pretty them up and everything. And I pretty much worked on that about 24 hours, 12 hours each day or so, minus some breaks. So, maybe 20 hours instead of 24. Well, no, but it was like 16, probably 22 hours of work over 26 hours of time. And it's good. I feel pretty good about this one, and wish me luck. I guess since I made this video, I'll say whether I get this one. This would be really good. It's just the kind of place I want to work. They have to, they're a national, big, well-known open source related company that has accomplished a lot. And I would have a lot to learn there in terms of certain things, just because of the exposure of the way how open source works. That would be good. And probably, and I get to dig into it's a cloud infrastructure sort of thing, which, I have all this experience in distributed multi-component architectures, which the cloud infrastructure is sort of focused on the abstractions that enable that. And what's sort of in the cutting edge area now is just everything in orchestration. Like, we can now create virtual computers, add virtual hard drives, and give them virtual networks, and it can all perform in normal cases. There's certain extreme cases they're still working on pretty well. We want to increase the ability to just press a button and have a whole, have a whole site come up, your website, plus your, commerce part and your and all everything. So, yeah, you have pair programming tests where a guy just talks to you and you have to type in and stuff, which would be better if I could run the things. I don't like just typing into an editor. I run things, and if I do a typo, that's okay, because I run it a second ago. And back in the old days when it took longer to compile, okay, I was a little careful about typos. Sometimes I still found them when I compiled. Then you have time tests like at things like HackerRank, which if you're trying to learn programming, go to HackerRank and other sites like that, and they'll give you programming tests. You can take them over and over if it's not enough time. But for an interview thing, it's not really natural to say, here's half an hour, do this thing. It's like, I will just ponder for an arbitrary amount of time a piece of code. And I certainly, and the problem also with the half an hour is, okay, so let's say it's supposed to take an half an hour. Well, the last 15 minutes, I'm going, shit, how long does it take to do that? Should I open that file, or does that take too many 3 minutes? I mean, it's just it's very unnatural. So that's not really that good. It's like better than nothing, but not very good. And then this overnight kind of test, I think, is reasonable. And even though a pair programming test, someone talks to you for a half an hour, or even longer, I would rather spend 3 hours, or in this case, 20 hours, in a programming test that was just given to me, and here, do this little program, or make this little app, or make this little function, or whatever it is. Because whether I fail or succeed, even if I'm going to fail, it's not about that. I want to succeed, but my judgment against it is that it's not really testing something that is applicable to what it's like to do software work, to sit with another programmer and have him tell you to do one-liners of functions you already did in 7 lines. Well, why? How would that possibly make me a better programmer? Wouldn't it makes me judge the company to say, no wonder I can't use your browser anymore because it's buggy. All right, the final thing I wanted to say as a postscript is Samantha Bee. I keep forgetting to watch her show. Sometimes she bugs me. She was too hard on Bernie. Right now, she's being too hard on Jill Stein. But you know what? I think there's some sexism in that. She is really funny. She has a sense of humor that came with her from The Daily Show, that you could tell what kind of writing and stuff she was doing for The Daily Show. She's very funny, and it doesn't really matter if she's going to make a joke that demeans someone I like. It wouldn't bother me with anybody else. And so I want to help promote her because I have been watching her. But then what I find out is when, well, for example, her show just came back. Well, yeah, not to malign myself at all, because I have been watching her, and then she went on her, the respite or whatever. And she came back. And how do I find that? Because they do like 5 and 10-minute clips as ads that you can skip on YouTube, which I think is very smart, by the way. And I usually just leave them running because it's funny. So then I went and started watching her again. So I guess I already am watching her. But let me just tell you, she's on a channel, and I think they should have given the Daily Show to her. Bottom line, she's funny. We should support her. I do believe there is some sort of a speed bump in our minds and whatnot. I don't understand why there's, 9 Johnny Carsons now, and none of them are women. And in the case of the Daily Show, Trevor Noah, I do not think is doing it. Samantha Bee could have. Her show is different from the Daily Show, which it should be, and frankly, it's a little bit more harsh. And I actually like that. Because it is her perspective. And I say that only because I did have to overcome some of the stuff she would joke about Bernie, or like Jill Stein. She just had a question mark in front of the picture. And, and she's like, yeah, well, bite me because I'm right, kind of stuff about, and that's just humor on top of one position that's like, you're saying don't vote in fear, you ought to be afraid, or whatever they're saying. So the point is, you don't have to agree with them. And I do think there's a kind of a sexism of, if you disagree with 10% of what a man says in a comedy show, you'll go, yeah, but whatever, he's a little bit fucked up on that. And I think when you do that with the women, you go, oh no. It's more, and it's a sexualized as well as a gender role thing that is worth thinking about. So I had already decided that I'm going to watch her, even though she's trashing sometimes, my side of liberalism, because she's funny as hell. And I decided I also wanted to tell all you to do that, and her show's back on. So that's Full Frontal Samantha Bee, who was originally from The Daily Show. All right, cheers. That is Newsly Bits.